Live from Rose Creek Studios, home of crazy good shows. It's reading time with John. And now, here's our reader, the man who's called Master John Bullington.
Hello! Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to our usual share of reading time with John. All right, director, set the camera down. All right. Last time we left off, I believe we stopped at chapter 4, I think. Yeah, I think that was it. Oh yeah, chapter 4.
And what's the book called?
The Inteprod Canadian Expedition.
And what level is it? And you're only in first grade? And you're reading a level O?
Well, that's why I'm reading chapter by chapter. And that's the whole development of the show. Reading chapter by chapter. And special thanks to Dana Bonstrom and Jeff Brown. Because of you guys, we were able to put this on Reading Time with John. So big shout out to the creators. Yeah. Woo! Yeah, baby. All right, everyone. Give me some technical difficulties right now. I'm just waiting to see about where chapter 4 is. All right. Chapter 4, the Northwest Territories. Stanley awoke to a poke in the ribs. The sun was shining brightly and the wind had nearly stopped. "We're coming down," Nick shouted. "Fast!" Stanley looked down. Nick was right. They were hurtling toward a frozen landscape at a dangerous speed. Oh, man. 3, 2, 1, roll! Stanley cried. He arched his back even more, like a parachute, and they crashed softly into the ground, tumbling head over heels through snow and brush. When they gathered themselves enough to sit up, they were stunned to find a man in the coat, huge fur, their collar towering over them. And he's breed. That's Inuit. The man corrected him, smiling.
Inuit.
We're native people. I am Tulugok. He extended one hand to each boy and pulled them to their feet easily. Beside them, Free Dog was yapping and dancing around. This is a merc. It means wolf, but he's very friendly. He watched you fall from the sky. He's never seen birds as big as you. Nick strained it up. I'm bigger than he is. Tulugok frowned a little. Well, no matter. You both look half frozen. Follow me. Nick and Stanley followed the Inuit man across the frozen tundra and into a little wooden house. Hey, don't you live in an igloo? Nick asked. Tulugok rolled his eyes and laughed a hearty laugh. There's a lot you don't know about my culture, the man said. Come inside, and you'll see that we are very modern. Inside the house, Stanley and Nick were grateful to warm themselves by a roaring fire. Tulugok introduced the boys to his wife, his grandmother, and half a dozen children were scampering about, passing around bowls of cardboard stew. The boys ate as Tulugok told stories about his people, and everyone was so eager to hear the story of how Nick and Stanley had arrived. You traveled so far, Tulugok's grandmother marveled. You floated right over the Rocky Mountains and into the Northwest Territories. I steered, boasted Nick. Tulugok's wife patted Stanley's hand. Your family must be very worried. Here, use your phone to call them. Our phone to call them to let them know you are safe. Stanley called his skiers were eager to hear his parents' voices and tell Arthur about all his adventure. I'm sorry, receptionist said. The lamb chop family checked out yesterday. Nick grabbed the phone. How about my family? I'm in to Dr. Dave's room. It's the VIP suite. Sorry, said the receptionist. Dr. Dave and his party checked out yesterday also. Stanley and Nick were too stunned to speak. Tulugal turned to his wife and said something in Inuit. Then he put his hand on Stanley's shoulder. You must visit the shaman now. Come. Stanley and Nick left with Tulugal still quite upset. Why would their families have left without him? Where could they have gone? The shaman and his wives, Tulugal, told them as they traveled across the village. He will have an answer. But Nick and Stanley were not so reassured. In fact, they were so worried they barely noticed that they traveled over a frozen river on a ridge of ice. There were their families. At least they came to a small Asian tent. Tulugal ducked inside and waved for the boys to follow him. In the dim light from an oil lamp, the boys could see that the walls were hung with animal furs and weavings with Asian artifacts. Suddenly, one of the furs, huge with a monstrous mask on top, leaped to life and came straight for them. The monster pulled off his mask to reveal a very tiny, very wrinkled old Inuit man. He hugged Tulugal and the two spoke for a moment in their language. Then Tulugal pointed to the boys and the old shaman turned. His eyes widened when he saw Stanley's sheep. He walked all around him, eyeing him closely from all angles. The shaman seemed so impressed and respectful that Stanley didn't feel a bit embarrassed by all the curiosity. Next, the shaman handed a skin drum to Tulugal. Tulugal began to beat it, and the shaman began to chant and dance around the room. Faster and faster he twirled, almost as if he was in a trance. Finally, he spun to a stop and seemed to come back to himself. He smiled broadly without a tooth in his head, said something to Tulugal. He says you boys are going to make a great journey together. Tulugal translated. You will go to the great falling waters. There, something will happen. I'll bond you to each other for life. Like brothers, the great falling waters, asked Nick. Where's down? The shaman reached into a pouch and he wore around his neck and pulled out a worn and creased postcard. He showed it to the boys. Niagara Falls, Stanley, he cried. I have heard of that, but how far away is it? Near Toronto in Ontario. Many miles away, answered Tulugal. Thousands! Canada is a very large country. Stanley and Nick exchanged looks. Two boys on foot with no money could never travel that far. Later that night, after a satisfying meal of dried fish and boiled walrus, the boys sat on the steps outside Tulugal's home. Normally, I would just mail myself home, Stanley said. But I don't think I should leave you here, Nick nodded. Besides, he said, you don't know that there'd be anyone at our homes when we got there. I don't know what to do, Stanley said. The shaman said we were supposed to make the journey together. Tulugal said there's a dogs at the Calgary where his cousin lives, but that's just a short part of the trip. Both boys fell silent then, looking down at the frozen ground, discouraged. After a while, though, Stanley, not being the kind of boy to give in discouragement, looked up. And then he gasped in disbelief. The night sky was shimmering with iridescent lights, neon greens and pinks and yellows danced across the whole entire horizon. The northern lights, Nick Stanley said at last. It's a sign. The whole sky can light up like that. I guess you and I can make our way to Niagara Falls somehow. Nick and Stanley shook hands. We'll do it, they declared. Like brothers. All right, everyone. That's going to be it for Chapter 4. And Northwest Territories. All right, we'll see you here on today on CBS. Oh, heck no. I forgot the show that I was